What is the latest with the rematch for Jack Catterall against Josh Taylor?
So Josh couldn't fight last year, so we've been working on it for a few months, but I can now officially announce that both fighters have signed for the fight. The fight date is locked in, and it'll be announced in the next week or so. It's going to be happening in the next 2 or 3 months, so it's imminent, and it will be in Glasgow, back at the scene of the crime.
Wow.
And I think it could be one of the most significant fights in British boxing for a long time because of what happened, because of who Josh Taylor is and what he's achieved, because of the fact that he could have gone on to other things but decided, you know what, I'm going to put this wrong right, and fair play to him. And Jack Catterall gets the opportunity that I think the whole of the nation feels like he deserves.
Well, it was largely thought on that night in Glasgow that Catterall had won. It went Taylor's way, and there was an outcry about it. What steps have you taken, Ben, to ensure we don't ever see a repeat?
I actually spoke to Robert Smith about that, and we're going to be putting a lot of pressure on for this fight to have a... We'll see. I hope next year is where we see a different way of judging the top fights. And look, Robert Smith...
No, we're not letting you off with that. Don't stop short of that. Yeah. So what does that mean?
I think, look, there's elements of open scoring that certain people are fighting for in the sport. There's also elements of, look at what we've got now with football, with VAR. Could 2 judges be sat in a truck as well, judging at the same time as the 3 next to ringside? I think there's opportunities now, if everyone is open-minded, to take boxing into a place perhaps that it's never been before. And that fight in particular is so significant because of what we saw, and I think the outrage that it caused, and that's what's giving us perhaps the impetus and the media attention to try and make a change. But I don't want to put the board on the back foot.
Forget
all
the
I can
board.
say.
Are you talking about VAR in boxing?
That is something that we're really trying to push, and also very confident that we could see in the next year or 2. Yeah.
Wow.
Listen,
Spencer, what about that?
I think the sport needs to move forward. We've been stuck in our ways for so long. There's been talk of this for many years, and it is something that is needed for the sport, to get rid of all the controversy, because we've seen in so many bad decisions over the last few years. Something has to change, and that could be the way forward. I think that's a great idea, to take a look at it like that, and open scoring, etc. I think it does have to change. Hopefully it does.
You've kind of stunned us with this, Ben, I have to say. Are we talking about VAR in boxing?
We're talking about help from technology, and we're talking about perhaps judges that can watch things back at the very highest level. One thing I've struggled with in the past 12 months is getting the best fighters from around the world to come and fight in this country. Clarissa Shields and Savannah Marshall was the biggest stumbling block to that, was the judges in this country, and I have it all the time, and I think everyone recognises that everyone wants the best for the sport. It's a difficult sport to judge. It can be subjective at times, but why not put everything in place that we possibly can, so that fighters can be confident when they go into a ring they're going to get the fairest outcome.
Yeah, that's phenomenal news this lunchtime, Simon, isn't it? Where do you stand with it?
Well, absolutely. I think it's absolutely fundamentally right to be looking at the mechanisms that can evolve the sport, to take away some of the controversies, to take away some of these issues that bring the sport into disrepute. I'll go further. I'll look at the British Boxing Board of Control as not being fit for purpose. I'll look at the funding of that particular organisation, and look at the people that are running it and saying this has to be combined with a new remit and a more empowered, a more legislatively based British Boxing Board of Control, to be able to make sure that when situations like Bradley Skeet, when situations like Josh Taylor and other ones that we can list back on that have been handled, and of course, the thorn in everyone's paw currently, the Conor Benn situation, can be handled in a far more professional way.
Yes.
So that the sport, which will have its own challenges. There's lots of challenges coming down the line for boxing. We're talking about head injuries in football. We haven't even discussed it in boxing. That will land in someone's doorstep sooner rather than later. Unless you've got a British Boxing Board of Control or arbitrary authorities that are leading the sport rather than running alongside it and doing bugger all really with it, then you're going to have these challenges even more. And I think it's absolutely right. If you've got forward-thinking people like Ben and Eddie as well, and Frank, and they're looking at the way that the game can evolve, but if you've got a new thought process coming in, like Ben Shalom, then you're going to start making, start breaking eggs, and you're going to start making some new omelettes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That news is out there now, Ben. Not least the news that the rematch is locked in, and that both have signed for the fight. Catterall against Taylor.
That's a fight, by the
Are
way.
we looking at March time? Are we,
Yes,
Ben?
yeah,
We're
yeah.
looking at March in Glasgow for that the fight with technology introduced on that night.
That look.
That may be a bit soon.
These things all take time. All I can say is we have the wind behind us now because of the media attention, because of the outroar. We now feel we're in a position where we can really, really push this through. And the dream would be that because of the significance of what happened on that night in Scotland, that the rematch would have something in place. But all I would say is I spoke to Robert Smith last week. He is always open to developing the sport, as much as other people say that he's not, and that he's this and he's that. He is, and we feel like we've got his ear now, and we feel like he wants the best for the sport. And yes, we're going to make mistakes, and yes, as we've seen in football, but we have to. The problem with boxing is it never seems to want to risk things. It never seems to want to break barriers. It never seems to want to develop. And that's what we're going to be pushing for. And I am confident that we're going to see an absolutely pivotal 12 months.
Well done, Ben. Well done with that. We just spoke to Chris Smith, who had a great night down in Bournemouth and saw off his last opponent, the man with the unpronounceable name. I'm with Spencer on that one. What have you got lined up for him?
Look, everyone's talking about it. The fans in Bournemouth, the knockout, and the momentum that's with him. It's the cruiserweight division, isn't it? It's on fire in the UK. We've got Lawrence Okoli, we've got Richard Riakporhe, we've got Chris Smith, all world level now. Chris wants to fight for a world title in Bournemouth. I'd like to see him fight Richard Riakporhe because I just think it's an absolutely huge rematch given where their careers have spiraled to. But he'll be fighting his next fight at the stadium in Bournemouth with that now famous atmosphere. And I'm very, very happy for him.
He will be fighting in Bournemouth next.
He will.
And it will be Riakporhe.
It will be at the stadium. It's going to be a world title or Riakporhe. Don't push me on that.
I won't push you on that. But we did push you on this. And we got the news out of Ben there that now we know Glasgow's the venue. March is the month. Do you want to give us a date? Or are you going to stick with it? March?
I'm going to stick with March.
And it's a rematch. And by God, this is hotly anticipated, isn't it? Jack Catterall goes back in with Josh Taylor in Glasgow in March. The two fighters have signed for the deal. It's locked in. It's done.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.